How would I make a universal basic income program? Well, first, it would be a phase-in. So, so I would start with a minimum birth year. Everyone born after that birth year is entitled to an amount of money that the government will give you that will allow you to live in the most highest cost of living place in the United States, but at basically poverty. What I mean by that is that they will calculate let's use New York City. They calculate what it would cost in New York City to afford rent, basic food, and a couple other things, niceties. So it would be barely above poverty level. And then they would give that to everybody in the United States after a certain birth year. People that was born before that birth year would still be entitled to food stamps and Social Security and things like that. People born after that will not be entitled to any of that and will need to have private sort of retirement plan, either like a government-backed. It'd be like a government 401k or a government IRA. And what I mean by that is that you pay into it yourself out of your own pocket, and it is backed by the government for your retirement account. It's like a privatized Social Security type deal, but it's not paid for by the government. It's paid for the people that actually physically would put it in. So if you put it in, you're entitled to that account once you reach retirement age, and it is your account. It is not like how it's set up now as a generalized fund. So, and the reason why I say that it would be everybody in the United States would get the same amount of money, but it would start as you're 18. So people like single mothers would not get any more help than people that didn't have kids. You can have as many kids as you want under universal basic income, and you would not get more. It would disincentivize getting more to try to make more money on welfare. And honestly, it's not a huge problem as people think it is, but people are entitled to more on welfare than what is right. Like, people have 6 kids, and welfare outstrips the amount of food you'll need or the amount of money. Like, people with more kids actually get more support than what is needed to support those kids, which is bullshit. And that's my honest opinion, and so universal basic income would wipe that out. You as an individual would be entitled to no more, no less, no matter what your economic situation is. Now, some people are like, how are we going to pay for this? Well, you eliminate, as I said, all the welfare programs, except for like Social Security and things like that. And honestly, those programs will only be will be phased out, not completely. It won't be like this is da. But it would start out with you would phase it out this way. You make people already getting Social Security and retirement; they're entitled to that until they die. People below a certain age will get less and less and less until like you hit an age and you're entitled to nothing, which I think should be like around 30. If you can't plan for the next 30 years at 30, you suck, and no offense, you're getting entitled to a full whatever amount. And the universal basic income will go up with inflation. So every year you're going to get a little bit more, but it's still going to be only the very basic amount that you could survive on in the most highest cost of living states. So in lower cost of living states, Alabama, Kentucky, Tennessee, yes, you're going to be getting a whole lot more, but it would also stimulate the economy of those states, which in the long run is way more helpful than government paying out more people than what's needed. That'll allow people that are in poverty to get out of poverty, because, if you're the amount of money that would be poverty level in New York, or just barely above poverty level, I don't advocate letting people be in poverty or going hungry and things, but I will say that they are getting the bare minimum amount and nothing more in New York, will be vastly more than what you'll need in like Tennessee, Kentucky, or Alabama, but it would allow those states to have more business, and with more business allows better economies. And inflation wouldn't go as far up as people think because the South isn't nearly as populated as people think it is. Like, I'll give an example of Kentucky and Tennessee. There are more people there's twice the amount of people living in New York City than there are people in Tennessee and Kentucky. If you combine Tennessee and Kentucky, you'll get around the same amount of people that live in New York City. That's an example. So no matter how much people down there can spend on their new, income, that they will not quit their jobs for, because that's another thing I'll get to in a minute. It would only drive up the economy. It would not affect it would not negatively affect the economy, because after a certain point, you can't drive up prices anymore. You as a business just won't have the amount of customers needed to drive up the price, because those customers will just refuse to pay that price. And so that's why it's not the monetary supply that drives up inflation, it's the amount of people. You can see this by looking at small town prices versus large city prices. And it's not that the people in the city will make more, because on average, people in small town America actually make slightly more than people in cities, which you wouldn't think so. But rural areas, the cost of living is vastly reduced, but also the amount of people that are like above poverty is also a whole lot higher, so it kind of evens out. But you'll notice that the biggest driver in cost is the amount of people you can get, because the amount of people you can get to pay those high prices, it will just become the new normal. But if you are in an area of the country where there aren't a lot of people, you can't convince people to pay those prices, because at percentage-wise, you're losing more customers, you're losing more money. If only 30% of people in New York aren't willing to pay a price for something, that's no big deal, because you have hundreds of millions. You have hundreds of thousands of more people that will. But in a place like Kentucky, Tennessee, Alabama, places like that, you can't afford to lose that amount of percentage of customers. So inflation would nearly go up as people think it is. So also, another issue people talk about, like, well, inflation is, as I said, it's not going to be a big problem because people are people, but another thing is that people talk about how if we give people money, they quit their jobs. Well, no one likes living at the bare minimum amount of money. Nobody. So, and under universal basic income, it would become way easier to spot people that's just getting by on their government handout and people that are actually working. And also, it allow people to do things with their money that you normally wouldn't be able to do. So, for an example, let's say you work at McDonald's. Your life sucks. You could have went to university, but you didn't have the opportunities. You just didn't have those opportunities presided for you. You're barely making it at McDonald's. Well, now the government hands out their new UBI to you. You get a decent amount of money, depending on what you're living. But now, any money you make from work is just extra money, because you can afford the amount of money. You can afford things now because UBI is paying for your shelter, your food, things like that. UBI will not cover things like childcare and things like that. You're on your own for those, because UBI is supposed to empower you as an individual. You as a family don't exist under UBI. That's the difference between UBI and welfare. Welfare cares about if you have a family or not. UBI is like, no, we as a government are only going to pay for you as an individual. You need to pay for other people, get a damn job. So now you're working at McDonald's, you have your UBI, you're using your UBI to pay for everything. McDonald's is now profit, basically. What do you do with your pure profit? Well, you pay taxes on your pure profit because that is going to go slightly up on UBI. But if priced fairly, you could pay for UBI on a fraction of a national sales tax or even a VAT. A VAT at like 2% will pay for UBI on its own. So, prices go maybe up just a little bit. Not enough to really care about. 2% is nothing compared to the 6% sales tax that never drives up. Like, I've never seen a state that has drove up inflation by making its sales tax higher. It just hasn't happened. And also, states with the highest sales tax also don't have very high inflation compared to states with very low sales tax. Matter of fact, states with the no sales tax actually have higher inflation levels. Who would have known that? But back to UBI and all that. Well, so now you're working at McDonald's. You don't need to work at McDonald's, but you can use your McDonald's money to afford an education. So it would actually increase the amount of engineers, doctors, lawyers, things like that, because people will not have to fear, or how am I going to eat this month? I can't stop what I'm doing to go to school. Well, they can reduce their hours. Say you work full time at a crappy job, and you have the ability to go to college. You just didn't have the opportunity. Well, now you have both the ability and the opportunity, because you can most businesses will lower down their hours on their employees, not because they have to, because most employees are going to be like, fuck this shit, I don't need to work this shitty job. I can go now and get an education. I can get a certification. I can do this and that and the other thing. I have both the money, the knowledge, and willpower to do it, because most people that are poor aren't stupid. They just didn't have the opportunities to be rich. If you eliminate, the barriers for that, you're going to get a better informed, higher educated country. And that's a good thing. So, another thing with universal basic income, as I said, there's benefits are insanely high. You'll get a better educated workforce, a better educated country. People have more opportunities. People can move now. People don't have to worry about losing their shelter, their houses, or cars, or things like that. They might have to worry about it just a little bit. As I said, UBI is functioning to give you the bare minimum for living. But here's the thing. If you're married, you're dating, you move in with somewhere, it's going to stack way higher than welfare. And what I mean by that is that UBI is calculated by individual, not by living situation. So, say I decide to move in with my girlfriend, okay? Under, welfare, we would get maybe 1.5 more than normal. Under UBI, I'll get exactly 2 times the amount of, us as a household. Say that say I move in back with my parents under universal basic income. I get a check, mom gets a check, dad gets a check. The physical amount is actually more than what welfare would be. Now, there are people that thinks that this is wrong and but think about it this way. UBI is a simple basic check that can be issued out to everybody. So you don't need to pay any, CVS workers or things like that. You don't need to pay those. You don't need to pay health departments and things like that. You don't need to pay the Kentucky human, resources or whatever. No. So it eliminates thousands of jobs. I will admit that. The government should not be in the business of employing people in the very first place, which is a totally different topic. But what I'm getting at is that if you eliminate the amount of income, if you eliminate those people's incomes that are getting paid by the government to sit around all day and make sure that the funds go here, and there, everywhere else, then it pays for itself. You're eliminating inefficiencies in those programs. And when you do that, it actually, if you think about it, as the amount of people in the population grows, the amount of people needing welfare will go up, which means the amount of people the government would need to hire goes up. Well, the government has to pay these people way more than what they're, I think it's like 80% of all welfare money goes to administrating these programs. Well, you eliminate the administration part, you just simply send out a check to everybody. It's actually cheaper. Per person, it is cheaper because you don't have to pay for the bureaucracy. And when you don't have to pay for the bureaucracy, it pays for itself. So, those are my points about UBI. And I'm sorry that it took 15 minutes to do this. I will say, very end now, this is going to be one of my very last one-take videos. I recently purchased a PC that can handle video editing, and I will start editing my videos pretty soon. I think the only thing I'm going to do on this video is to touch up some noise reduction and things like that.